Hey, this is Mike and Tom with the Muscle and Speed podcast. We're here to talk about our favorite car movies, TV shows, music, and workouts, wheeling, whatever else comes to our mind. We're going to be posting these up once a week. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Muscle and Speed. We also have a website, www.muscleandspeed.com, where we'll eventually be selling some merch. Our goal here is to share our passion for all these things with the people who feel the same way. And we're back. We got Will, Muscle and Speed. How you doing, Will?
Doing good.
All right. Tommy can't join us tonight. He had some stuff to do with work, and he just couldn't get away.
Okay.
So it's just me and you. We're trying to make this a regular thing. I have no idea how this will ever work with Tommy here with me. Actually, that's not true. I think I do have that figured out, too. I have a conference microphone that will work for a whole room, essentially. And if he's here, that's what I'll plug in, and hopefully that will work. How many minutes did we just spend trying to figure this out?
At least a good half hour.
Sweet. Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, all right. It's good to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah.
And apologies to the people who listen to this podcast because it's been 2 weeks since we put one out because it just. And I kind of told Tommy this. It's just like, man, we're busy enough that it is really hard to get him here and try to get everything organized at our house when we're also trying to go to the gym 4 nights a week and we're trying to, we're going to work, Monday through Friday and, we've got football on Sundays and it's really difficult to get together and do this simple podcast. It only takes, 40 minutes to an hour, but it's impossible.
It's busy men stuff.
But, enough of my complaining. You got your car put away for the winter, I assume?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I keep a spot open for it so I can pull it out just far enough to start it up.
Jules and I have been talking about some pretty big ideas. We went and looked at a house over in Lawrence last week. And I don't know if we're going to get it, but it kind of led us to thinking, because it's quite a bit more expensive than our house that we have now. And it kind of led us, though, to thinking about changing some things up financially. And to the Mopar faithful out there, that would mean getting rid of my Dodge Challenger SRT8. Now, if I do that, I'm looking at a newer Dodge Durango RT with a 5.7 Hemi.
Okay.
So it would still be, I don't know, is there such thing as a muscle SUV?
With one of those, yes. Yeah, I think so.
And I would put, Dodge Performance Springs, I'd get an exhaust on it and a tune and probably a drop-in filter. And
Well, I had, it was just the 318, but I had a really nice one. If you remember that blue one that I had.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I had a late 90s Durango. I think it was a 99, but
Nice.
it was really nice. I liked
Nice.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Durangos too. I thought from like, I don't know, I want to say it was from like '05 to '09 or something like that, or maybe '10. They looked horrible.
Yeah, I didn't like that boxy style that they moved to.
Yeah, it didn't look good. The front end looked weird on them. But then they moved to the more modern one, and that's what I've been looking at. And I think those look pretty good.
No, why the hell not?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know that it's going to happen, but the thing of it is once we were talking about freeing up monthly income to afford this house, it kind of led us to thinking is, maybe it just makes good sense in general to do this. So
Well, what about the house? Is the house bigger?
Yeah, so it's almost 3 times the size of our house.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
and the reason being is it has a finished basement. The upstairs, it does have a decent amount of space, but that's
I know
not
what you're talking about,
terribly
though,
bigger.
because our basement is almost finished, and I can see a pool table down there. They've got the chains for the hanging light. It's for a man cave.
Right. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what we're looking at. I don't know that we're going to do that, but we are looking at it. We went and a realtor
Oh,
showed us the house, and I don't know.
yeah, why not?
But we might not too. However, like I said, it makes good financial sense to look at least um, ditching the Challenger for one of those Durangos, because that
Yeah,
can tow the camper, and then I wouldn't need my truck. It just
they changed things up for you a bit.
it would, and then I could put a lot more money into the Cutlass next year as well, which I would like to do.
It's well worth it. Yeah.
As I really like that car, and I just haven't had the money to put into it to make it what I wanted it to be when I bought it.
Well, I like that car, and I haven't even gotten to ride in it yet. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know much about it so far.
It's cool. It's got a lot of torque and runs out of gas really fast.
Okay, it's what they're supposed to do.
Right, right. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of want to do that. It's a little nervy. It's a little nerve wracking because of course you're talking about going into a bigger mortgage, which is a really long term loan and a long term commitment. So yeah, it's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But I'm really it's nice to know that it's possible. You know what I mean? You do the math in your head and you kind of look at things on paper and
Well,
start
you
to
guys could do pretty good with the house that you got if you were getting out of it. You know.
right, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a thought right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's more than a thought. It's a tentative plan. It is weird just because Jules and I work right next to each other. We're only like a block away from our jobs, and that's really nice.
Makes it easy. Yeah.
It does. So moving, as trivial as it sounds, moving 6 miles away is kind of a big deal for compared to what we're used to. And so I know that's not very far, but if you knew the geography of our area, or if you've watched that video of me cruising around the bay, that's what you'd be doing.
And you run into things like deer and weather and stuff that it's just that 6 miles.
Construction.
Yeah.
Construction. There's only one road really that goes
Yeah.
between Baragun lawns, and when that one's under construction, you can get held up for a long time.
Yep.
This, Will, is my Tennessee salted caramel whiskey, and it is so good.
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I stick to just simple things. I've tried a Yukon Jack. I try Crown Royal every once in a while, but Jameson is my staple.
Yeah.
I stick to the Irish whiskey. Yep.
Yeah, Jameson's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The character Thomas Jordan in the novel I wrote also has an affinity for Jameson.
Okay. See?
Yeah. All right. So enough of my belly aching and babying and whining about maybe buying a house, maybe not. Those are first world problems, and who cares? Why? Because the Lions won today.
Lions won. Yeah.
And I doubted them the entire way. If you go on Muscle and Speed's Twitter, you'll see that I was complaining about every decision they made. I threw Taylor Decker under the bus multiple times.
Well, and he was a first round left tackle prospect who we counted on to replace Riley Reef, who went on to Minnesota and with a Pro Bowl career still going.
Yeah. So there was 3 plays that stuck out in my mind with Taylor Decker. And they were 2 of them were kind of early in the game, like second quarter. Because, both teams came out and scored. But then in the second quarter, things were kind of slowing down. You had a run to the left with Kerryon Johnson. He gets out in the flat, and Taylor Decker's out there with him. Taylor Decker blocks one guy, and Kerryon made a move and started back in on the left-hand side. Taylor had no one to block at that point. A linebacker's coming in at carry-on, and Taylor turned around and was watching him with his hands on his hips while he got tackled.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Now, I'm not saying that he could have made a play, but the fact that he was sitting there with his hands on his hips, I mean, he looked like me.
He should have been moving.
A big fat guy standing out there sucking wind, watching a play happen, and he's making probably second most money on the team, or damn near,
yeah.
And he did nothing. So then it was like just a few plays later. He comes out and just gets blown up by a linebacker and just gets run over. And
yeah, that's happened to him a couple times this year.
And it's a linebacker. And it looked like he barely moved his feet. I don't know what's going on with that guy because he didn't look that way last year, I didn't think.
No.
But he's borderline pathetic. in my opinion.
So that's what it seems like sometimes because you think a guy his size, what does he run, 6'7", 315 pounds? And I don't know, I can't remember how many reps he did at the combine, but you think a guy like that, a linebacker comes up and he stonewalls him. Right. That's the way it should be.
Right. And then he did do a nice job pursuing blocks downfield on a touchdown. But he was going up against a cornerback. And so I'm sorry, I'm not going to give him a lot of props for that. The only thing I would say is that he made it downfield and he did do a block that helped carry on get into the end zone, which was nice, but not that impressive. Not really. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with these guys.
Well, it's they always, what were they always said about the Lions, that we would beat the teams we were supposed to beat, but we couldn't beat the teams that were winning teams. Right. And this year we're losing to losing teams and we're beating the winning teams, except for Chicago.
Right.
But other than that, we beat Green Bay and we beat New England. And you say what you want about the players that they have or don't have because of trade or injuries or whatever. It's the same with the Lions.
Right. But I really wanted you on
injuries and the same kind of player talent.
Yeah. I really wanted you on the last podcast because we talked about we actually, I shouldn't say that. Tommy and I talked at length about the Golden Tate trade before the podcast, and then we both neglected to bring it up while we were talking about it. That was a big
deal for me. I was really didn't understand the motivation behind any of it. Beyond the fact that if the player didn't want to be there, if he was demanding to be traded, then I can see the reason why. But I heard that it had something to do with us not having a third round pick, and that to me was bullcrap.
Well, I've heard that he wanted a decent amount of money, and with Ansah and Stafford, they didn't really want to pay him. It's kind of the Belichick way. This is what I've read. It's the Belichick way when you have someone who's looking to leave in the offseason and free agency to trade them and get something for them before they can go. And so I don't know how serious he was about leaving or any of that part of it, but it just seems like that was the decision that was made, is we're going to lose him in the offseason and we want to get something for him before he goes, so we're going to trade him now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still, but with the guy, I mean, I guess when you look back at some of the decisions that the Patriots have made over the years with that, what was that linebacker, crap. He went to the Cleveland Browns anyways, and the reason why they let him go is because he wanted top dollar.
Right.
He wanted top dollar linebacker money, and they were like, whatever.
Right.
Okay? And so he left. But the thing with a guy like Golden Tate is not replaceable.
Right. Well, the one guy who might be able to, they haven't been using in the slot, and that's Theo Riddick. They should have moved Riddick into the slot as soon as Golden Tate left, and they still haven't.
That's what I thought. That's, when I thought to myself, okay, well, maybe Theo Riddick comes in and he goes into the slot because Golden Tate's kind of a running back in that way. Yeah. But then, same thing with Theo Riddick. When they do move him into the slot, it's like he doesn't know the routes to run, or he's not ready for the ball when Stafford throws them. Because Stafford throws some balls that you wouldn't think they're not going to get there, not accurately, and he does it anyways.
Right. Well, he's done that his whole career. That's been his thing.
Yeah.
Is he throws from odd angles, and he throws, off his back foot, which is, you're not supposed to do. He throws across his body,
But he
like Brett
can't.
Favre used to. And he's not as good as Brett Favre, but he is very good. And you've seen that today. He made some pretty wicked throws in some pretty awkward situations, which brings me to the other person that I was lighting up in social media, Ellington, who we got from San Francisco. Now, San Francisco's not a very good team, and they released Ellington and Detroit picked him up. Now, I know we're short on receivers, but and I know he made some plays late, but he's another guy who, unfortunately, like Eric Ebron was with Detroit, where he dropped about half of everything you threw to him, regardless of how he received it.
And they were they made some excuses for him, said that they weren't on the same page because he hasn't been there very long. But I still.
There was several in the hands he dropped.
Yep.
And they went on to win anyway. And I think the other issue is not having Marvin Jones. You didn't have that speed on the outside because Galladay's just not fast. He's big and he's a great possession receiver, I think, but he's not fast. And Stafford overthrew him three times, I think. And they weren't catchable balls by anybody, but I think he was throwing like Marvin Jones was out there, and it was Kenny Galladay instead. So it didn't work.
How long has Calvin Johnson not been with us? 3 years?
3 or 4.
3 years now.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a Calvin Johnson hangover. Because I think a lot of deep balls, even the deep balls that he's missed to Marvin Jones, I think he's still having a Calvin Johnson hangover.
Right.
Like he wishes that guy was there when he threw the ball.
Well, and the other thing that's killing me is Luke Wilson and this Toyola. They're horrible. Both of them are horrible tight ends. They can't block. They can't catch.
No.
They don't do anything well. Robertson
I
isn't
don't
bad, but
understand the
he's out.
motivation behind signing them.
I don't know. I really don't.
They weren't a good replacement for Eric Ebron or Pettigrew.
No.
I mean, at least those guys would catch 60-some passes for Stafford, and they could stand in there and make a move.
Right. Ebron just couldn't block either. Ebron had a lot of drops, and he also was a horrible blocker.
Yeah.
And when you have guys that are one-dimensional like that, because obviously Ebron's an athletic dude, and every once in a while you'd see that out of him. He'd catch a ball in stride and make people miss and have big plays. But when you know for a fact that they're not going to run the ball because you're in the game and you can't block.
that speed they were always talking about, made me think of like Jimmy Graham or something like that, but they never seemed to use him that way. And then when you watched video of Ebron running his routes, he never seemed that fast.
Right.
Not like a wide receiver, not like that they talked about that he was that fast. It never seemed like he was.
Right. Well, how about this? End of the game. Okay. It wasn't in the bag. It was still tight. Detroit had the ball, and it was at the midfield. I think they needed 8 yards to get into field goal range. They didn't run it once, and they had 3 timeouts. Yeah. And in a game like this, the running game was the only thing that was working. and I'm sorry, runs to the right. Stay away from Taylor Decker and the other idiot that's over there.
So is that coaching, or is that lack of faith in LeGarrette Blount? Because basically what you have left is you have Blount and Riddick, and Riddick, Zenner. For some reason, they don't believe that he can run at all.
I know.
And I don't get it because he seems quick enough and elusive enough. Like, what is up with that? And then you got Zach Zenner. I think they re-signed Zach Zenner, right?
They did. He recovered
and they
the
let
onside.
go of Abdullah.
Yep.
Yeah,
the fumble machine.
I don't know. I've seen so many first round and second round draft picks, even back to Kyle Van Noy,
Yeah.
who looks amazing for the Patriots, by the
Right.
way.
Right, but they're on a
Like,
better team. The problem is when you have a guy who's maybe not great, but on a weak team in a weak linebacking cores, his weaknesses are much more exposed.
they're shown out more.
When you're on a good team where you're a complement to good players, that makes a difference. I think for all these guys, including Ebron. Well, not that the Colts are any good, but but
But
Andrew
it makes
Luck's
me
a good
wonder about guys
quarterback.
like Tahir Whitehead.
Right.
Why in the world would we let him go to Oakland?
Right.
Why wouldn't we re-sign? Because he wasn't getting top dollar anyways.
Right.
So why let him?
Neither was
You
Vanoy.
know, yeah,
And he's still not getting top dollar because the
no,
Patriots ain't going to pay you
no,
either.
no.
If you're with the Patriots, you're supposed to be there to win, not to get
And
paid,
that's it.
I guess.
Yeah, you can get paid once you leave. You
Right.
know,
Make your name there and then go get paid after. But
yeah,
yeah, LeGarrette Blount, I think he just looks a step slow, or maybe 2 steps slow. He's still
maybe two
got
steps
power,
slow.
and he'll still drag guys with him. And if he had a good offensive line, he'd be dangerous.
It'd be different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he'd
it'd
have
be
a
a lot
full head
different.
of steam. The problem is you need on Johnson because he needs to dodge someone in the backfield before he,
He's got to break a tackle.
he's got to break a tackle
And
when he gets the ball, and that's not LeGarrette Blount. That's not what he does. Not in his whole career. He's never done that. And
no,
he's
he
old
needs a
now.
hole to hit. If he can hit a hole, then he's good for 4 yards.
Yep. Yep. Well, I hate to sound negative coming out of a victory over a good team like Carolina, but it's just hard because you still have the losses to San
Yeah, we're
Francisco and the
4-6. It's not,
Jets and Dallas just hanging over our heads because those are 3 games they really should have won. And those are against teams they should have beat. They're better than them.
well, I don't understand to this point yet. I still don't understand why Stafford's still calling or still having to call plays called by the coordinator and not based on what he sees. Though that should be given up to Stafford to call what he wants to call in the huddle
Yeah.
or to at the line of scrimmage and hurry up. That should be left up to him completely now.
And maybe that's just another sign that it's time for Jim Bob to go.
Yeah, it could be.
You know what I'm just tired of, and I've said this a few times on this podcast, but I'm tired of morons, and I'm going to call them morons, talking about the need to get rid of Stafford to save Detroit.
Oh man,
Are you out of your freaking minds?
we haven't seen a quarterback like this since forever. Since you go back to the championship days, we haven't had a quarterback not even close to this skill set, and it's
No.
Detroit's own fault. And I refer back to the Sanders days when we were building a team around Barry, and still wouldn't pay a quarterback to play for us, but basically using a single athlete as a staple to sell tickets
Yep,
instead of win Super Bowls.
definitely. I do think that Martha has more guts than Bill.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think she wants a winner and she expects one. I think that's why Caldwell got taken out. I mean, obviously Bob Quinn as GM wanted his guy, Matt Patricia, to be his coach. We'll see how that goes. I'm not ready to say that Matt's going to be this great coach. Very few coming out of Bill Belichick's shadow have done well.
They showed that.
So it's I don't know. I just have a feeling like if Detroit doesn't show improvement over the next couple of years, because let's be real, they're not contenders this year. They're
Nope.
just not. The best teams in the league will utterly flatten them. If you have a really good pass rush right now, you'll destroy Detroit. I'm not looking forward to the Chicago game on Thanksgiving, and it's not because I don't think Detroit can win, because they can. But with Khalil Mack and the pass rush they have, Detroit's in trouble. They're going to have to pull some stuff out to get this win.
Well, they need to almost. I thought about Harbaugh coaching Michigan. and the style of offense that he runs most of the time.
Yeah.
And I thought if you're gonna play, if you're gonna show that you can get sacked 10 times in one game, in one freaking game, then you better break out the tight ends and the chippers and the big running backs and take out those guys like Khalil Mack, or at least give him a chance to give Stafford a chance to throw it to
Right.
somebody.
Right.
You can't run out three wide receiver sets with the running back running out in formation because he'll just get hammered all game
Right.
long.
Yep. And that's why, against those teams that have an elite pass rush, like Chicago, like Minnesota, they're just not going to do well. And that's why against New England and Miami and some of these other teams, they've looked really good, or they looked good because they didn't have an elite pass rush. And so Stafford had time and he was able to get the ball going, or maybe the run was getting going. And
Yeah.
they did well. But when they face an elite defensive line, they're done. They won't survive it. And you're right. Part of it to me is game planning. If you can't alter what you're doing enough to combat these guys coming off the edge, because that's mostly what it is, you're done for. Because once you hit the playoffs, and the goal for every team is to get in the playoffs and win, you're going to run into one of those teams.
Yeah.
You can't avoid them all the way to a Super Bowl victory. You're going to play someone with an elite defense. And if
And
you can't...
unfortunately, we don't have the offense anymore to compete. We
No,
used to.
we used
We
to.
used to have an offense where they would let Stafford just light it up.
Yeah.
Like you could see it was just go ahead, do. But now we're lucky to get 28 points in a game. We're
Right.
lucky.
Here's the thing that I've noticed, though, in the past 3, 4, 5, all this season. Detroit's defense, most games, is not giving up a ton of points. Minnesota's offense only scored 17 on us.
Yeah.
They had a pick six, which was or not a pick six, it was a fumble.
Fumble. Yeah.
And that was Carrion's fault. Stafford even showed him the ball before he flipped it to him, and he still dropped it. That was kind of annoying, but, you got to take your lumps, I guess. But
It was on desperation. Yeah. It was
it
a
was.
desperation type play.
It was, and it was sad because it was really heads up on Stafford's part. I pointed out that he went ahead and made the block.
Yeah, he was
flipped the
trying.
ball
He was
and then
trying to make something happen.
Yeah, and Carrion just dropped it. If Carrion hadn't dropped it, he might not have got the first down, but he would have got yards.
Yep.
It's just it's so annoying with them because it's so close. You have receivers fall down, you have cornerbacks fall down, and those are things.
Well, and that's
kill
why
you.
we're so tired of hearing people talk bad about Stafford.
Right.
Because he's the best thing that's happened to us in decades.
In decades.
And that's just the reality of it. And if we could put any kind of team together for him, we could see a Super Bowl caliber team.
Right.
It might take a few years to win one, but you could see one with Stafford. I don't know what's going to happen to Detroit once he goes.
Well, I mean, how many times in football history has a team gone from one elite quarterback to the next without missing a beat? I can only think of two. And that's San Francisco from Montana to Young and Green Bay from Favre to Rodgers.
Yeah.
That's the only time I can think of that ever happening, where you dropped an elite quarterback, you picked up another. Now, don't get me wrong, and some people will be like, well, he's comparing Stafford to those four guys. No, I'm not. I'm just saying Stafford is an elite quarterback.
He's an elite quarterback.
And
he could win. He could win the Super Bowl.
Right, he could with the right team.
Yeah.
Nick Foles won one with the Eagles last year. Do you really think that Nick Foles would outplay Stafford on the same team? No.
No.
Not in a million years. If you think that, kindly pull your head from your ass and rewatch football. Relearn the game because you don't know nothing.
Well, because, I mean, if you were to watch Foles like I watched, and I seen his transition from team to team when he was playing behind Sam Bradford as a St. Louis Ram, and that's what he is a backup. He's like,
right.
Who do we have? We had Sean Hill at one time, a game manager.
Right.
Nothing flashy. He can manage the game, not turn over the ball, That's it.
Right. And that's what, when you have a really strong defense like the Eagles had last year, and Flacco had when they won,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a great quarterback. You have great moments, and you'll need to have great moments to win. And if you can step up and do that, that shows a lot, for you and your competitiveness. And I would say that for Nick Foles. I'm not saying that he's some crap quarterback that doesn't matter. No, he's very competent, but there's a reason why he's not starting. He's not doing anything this year.
There's
There's
a
a
reason
reason for that.
why they went back to Carson Wentz.
As soon as they could.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard for me because you're dealing with the fact that it is true Detroit hasn't really done anything since 1991, because they made it to an NFC Championship game. That's pretty damn good. I think we'd all be pretty happy if they could do that again. So they haven't done anything since then. And for whatever reason, the ownership dismantled that team over the next 10 years and, made them into a very mediocre ball club by getting rid of their top talent that they had. Like you said, they were holding on to Barry Sanders, who's one of the most, electric players that's ever played football. And they used him to sell tickets, and they stopped trying to compete to win.
Yep.
That's
what it felt.
It is. Well, look at it. Like you said, Ray Crockett, Benny Blades, Willie Clay. They got rid of everybody.
Yeah.
Lomas Brown, Henry Thomas. How
Like,
many guys on their defensive line did they go through? The only guy they kept was Robert Porcher.
I know.
In all those years, and he was very good.
I think that was just loyalty. That was just Porcher loyalty.
And Spielman too.
Yeah.
We had Spielman for a long time. It still bothers me that he finished with another team. He's one of those unsung players on a team that was very mediocre, and so you don't hear enough about him as a player, but he was really, really good.
Oh, he was awesome. I still remember my favorite Chris Spielman highlight, and I forget the team it was against, but he ran up on a guy that was catching the ball and took it away from him and ran it for a touchdown. That was my favorite Chris Spielman moment. I mean, because the guy had the ball, but they still called it an interception because he took it away.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know, and like you said, you don't want history to repeat itself. And I will say this for Detroit, Sue left because Sue was going to leave. And he was a dirty player. So I wasn't. It sucked to see him leave because obviously his talent level was what it was. But I think right. Well, but not enough was made to the fact that he was also accented by some pretty darn good players around him on that defensive line. Because he had nowhere near the success or domination in Miami that he had in Detroit.
No, and to this day, I don't know what it is with the Los Angeles Rams, but he's third on the team, I think, in quarterback pressures. They were showing the statistics.
Yep. So I don't know. I feel like Detroit is trying to put together a winner. I really believe that. I think that they're trying to do it. I think they have a structure in place that could work. The problem is it may not work right away, and you don't want to pull the plug too soon. I think Bob Quinn is going to be a good guy to go after talent. I think Matt Patricia is going to be a solid coach. I don't know if he's going to be great, but you need to give this team 5 years to get into a system and get good at it.
Yeah.
Changing it every 2-3 years is a mistake. And it's a mistake we've been making for a while.
Well, I think we could have won 10 games this year with Caldwell.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether or not he was the guy to stick with or whatever their reasoning was, and I know, like you said, Bob Quinn wanted his guy.
Right.
He wanted that different mentality there and that different whatever the different play calling, but they kept Jim Bob Cooter around because Stafford wanted him.
Yep. And I don't
Yeah,
know
I
that
don't know.
that's the right move. I don't know that Jim Bob is the guy going forward.
Yeah, I don't know either. With the way this season has gone, the way that the offense is run, I still think that most coaches have it right. When you see guys, and I'm not saying that Stafford's as good as Peyton Manning, but most of those guys, when they hit a certain age, if they're an elite quarterback, they hand over the offense to those guys.
Right.
They let them put in the run play or the quick slant or the deep route when they want to.
Well, and you've seen in this game, there was a couple times where he missed Galladay, where Galladay kind of ran the wrong route.
Yeah,
And one of them was a hot read. The cornerback came down and Stafford was going to throw it over the top to Galladay, and Galladay ran the wrong route because he ran the play that was designed instead of reading the defense, too.
yeah.
And, you can't have that. And Ellington did the same thing. Ellington's brand new to the team, but, man, it's tough to watch. When you had
Yes.
all last year and a good portion of this year, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, and Galladay, that was a really nice trio.
Yeah.
And now we don't have that. Well, Marvin Jones is out. Tate gets traded. Galladay's playing the number one, which is fine because I believe he can be a number one. But um, yeah, I don't know. It didn't work out
Well, the
real
thing,
well.
thing for me that hurts the worst, I guess, is because this would be all fine and good if Stafford was 25,
Right.
26, but this is Stafford at 30,
Yeah.
and this is the best quarterback we've had since
Right.
I started watching football and really paying attention. And if we don't do something soon, we're going to be looking to start over square one all over again.
He's the best
All
quarterback Detroit's ever had.
Yeah,
I don't care. I know Bobby Lane and I've seen highlights and I know what he did and I know there's a curse or whatever, but um, Bobby Lane is not as good as Matt Stafford. Never. The talent level are not even close. Stafford is the best quarterback Detroit has ever had in its history. Ever. Ever.
and that's why he was drafted number one.
Right.
That's why.
He's a true number one. I think it would shock people if Stafford hit free agency, the teams that would go after him, the people that they'd be willing to cut to have him. I think people don't understand that in Detroit. There's some fans that just think, they hang it all on him. You
Like
know,
he's gonna win it all by himself.
right? Well, Rich Gannon called him a stats quarterback. That was the shot he took at him. Rich Gannon's chance to get in the media for the first time since 2001.
Yeah,
Because I hadn't said that name or read that name in 20 years, but there it was. Rich Gannon said that Stafford's a statistical quarterback and doesn't play to win. Yeah, he just has he has one of the where is he on the list? Is he third on the list for all-time fourth quarter comebacks?
yep.
I mean, he's up there. That's not someone who's playing
That's
statistical
all.
football.
And he's third. He's third on the list in consecutive starts as of right now.
Right. So, I mean, obviously what Gannon said was stupid.
It's yeah,
And meant to get him attention. He said that for himself, to get his name out there. He's hoping to get back on Monday Night Football, but it's not going to happen. Much like when he was hoping to make something out of his career when he landed on a really good team, it didn't work out,
yeah.
and it never happened. It's tough. I feel for him just because for Stafford, I mean, just because he is getting paid a lot of money to play football. So it's not that, but obviously he cares about winning, and this is the team that drafted him, and there would come a certain pride with being the guy that helps this team win a championship. Who doesn't want to be that person that can say they got Detroit over the hump? But I don't know that they're ever going to be good enough to do it as a team. Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And maybe he is the greatest. You take away his neck injury and let him finish his career strong, and maybe he's the greatest. Not just because of statistics, but it's the way he generaled the game.
Yeah.
That's the key to
Never
me
seen
to
anybody
him.
like it.
No, no, and so it. But look at, I guess what I was getting at was look at his Indianapolis Colts. Most years they were a 10-win team just because he's great, but he didn't have enough talent around him to really compete. And the few years he did, they did win a Super Bowl out of that. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and like I said, I'm
Mark.
not saying that Stafford's on his level, but
Well, I mean, but you also look at the talent level of the offensive line that Peyton Manning had.
yeah,
And then you look at the fact that he had Marshall Faulk, and then after Marshall Faulk, he had Edgerrin James, and he had Marvin Harrison, and who was the other Hall of Fame wide receiver that he had? I mean, and then you look at the defense that they had for those teams. Who are the defensive ends? Are both Hall of Famers. They're both in the sack leaders. I mean, you got teams that put together for those guys where you're going to win a Super Bowl,
yeah,
and you don't get that with Stafford. Doesn't have that. We
no,
had Calvin Johnson at one time, but he never had a running back.
no.
Never did.
They never put a running game in there, and the defense had its moments, but Slay hadn't quite come into his own yet.
No.
And Sue was very dominant, but he's also not a pass rusher.
No.
And you lost Cliff Averill early on, and he went to Seattle and had a great career. That didn't help Detroit.
No. But
you know,
you see guys like Cliff Averill and Kyle Vanoy, guys like that, and Cliff Averill obviously better at his skill position than Vanoy is or is at this point. But they went on to win Super Bowls.
they did.
And I think, some of those guys that we get, like Golden Tate, who wanted to be a Lion for the rest of his career, they want to follow suit.
Right.
They go to somebody else who's a contender right now because that's what Detroit's supposed to be.
Right. I agree. If they were playing to their ability game in and game out, and this is what is so maddening about Detroit, they could be 6-3 right now, or 7-4, or 7-3. I mean, they could be if they just beat the teams they were supposed to beat. Like you said, though, you could say also that they beat some teams they shouldn't have.
They shouldn't have beat.
Um,
Or statistic. I mean, shouldn't have based on what the team's win-loss record is now because we beat the winning teams.
Right. Right. I don't know. If Alta C, Green Bay, they suffered some more losses to their team this week, and so yeah, we'll see what happens because if Minnesota beats Chicago and Green Bay loses, Detroit's still kind of in it in the North. As ridiculous as that sounds at 4-6, but
NFC's not looking too hot this year.
No, they're not.
I mean, there's you got the Rams and you got the Saints that are just they're looking to run the table.
Yeah, they are. They are. And you look at the Rams, they don't have a lot of weaknesses. You look at the Saints, they don't have a lot of weaknesses. And for the Saints, I mean, Drew Brees is another one of those guys. As much as everyone talks about who's the greatest, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, and to me it's Aaron Rodgers, just based on his skill set and the way he plays. I do think Tom Brady's far more successful, and that's obvious, but I think that has a lot to do with Bill Belichick and the system that he plays in. Tom Brady himself said last week that, or was it 2 weeks ago, that if Aaron Rodgers had played for the Patriots, he probably would throw for 7,000 yards a year. I don't know if that's true, but and because that's downplaying his skill too much. Tom Brady he's neck and neck with Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning and all those guys for skill. So that's a little unfair to him, but Drew Brees is another one that's just put up numbers year after year and brought his team, into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs, and they've won Super Bowl, and he's a guy that's done that forever, and he's still playing at an incredibly high level. Why is his name never in that conversation?
I don't know. They
Isn't
were
that
just
weird?
talking about that the other day, and Breeze is an undersized quarterback.
He's tiny.
You know, he's not as small as Doug Flutie, but he's
He ain't a
smaller
lot
than
bigger.
Stafford.
Right. Well, is he smaller than Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is pretty small for a quarterback.
I think Aaron Rodgers is 6'4". You know,
Is he? I thought he was like
he's
six
around.
one or
Stafford and Rodgers are around the same size.
are they? Let me look.
Yeah,
Because I
I
don't know
think
why, but I've always thought that Rodgers was short. Not short, but you know what I mean, short for a quarterback. Um,
I think he runs 6'4", 220 something.
he might. Let me look real quick. He's 6'2".
6'2".
Yeah, 6'2", 225,
Well, he is. So he's around Stafford size. I think Stafford's 6'3".
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, something like that. Okay, well he's smaller than I thought. Still,
yeah.
I mean, but I think Breeze is 6 foot, 6'1".
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and that's the tough part when you're that size as a quarterback, trying to throw behind guys that are 6'7".
yeah. And when they're all like they average 6'5" across the board, then
Because I'm about 6'1", and Kyle Bell is 6'6", and I feel tiny next to him. it's so I think about that. You know, if you're one of those guys like Aaron Rodgers and you're behind those 6'7", 6'8", 6'5", 6'6", how do you even see over them? Because they're like a house.
yeah. I don't know, man. With Rogers, it's like perfect timing. It's like the arm strength and then the ability to adjust the power behind the throw to
Yeah,
get it to the guys perfectly. Because those receivers that the Packers have had, beyond the fact that when Rodgers started, he had Brett Favre's receivers.
yeah.
And that's what got them that Super Bowl.
Well,
He
and
had Brett
getting
Favre's
Charles
team
Woodson and
when Favre dropped out. Rodgers got to step into a team that was built for Brett Favre.
well, and a team that was pretty good. And they added Charles
Yeah,
Woodson and they added some guys. They had, I think Tony Siragusa was still playing at that point.
I think so.
They had some good players that, you know, he didn't come into a mediocre or even a crappy team. He came into a very good team that was used to
Yeah.
winning, you know, and he turned out to be an amazing quarterback. So
Yeah.
maybe the greatest of all time. Um, that's tough though. It's tough to say that because I say it all the time. I always say that. I think Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time. But then when you look at things statistically, is he better than Tom Brady? Is he better than Drew Brees?
But that's hard to say though because Rodgers started late.
He did.
He was benched behind Favre for 2 or 3 years,
Yeah, something like that.
something like that. So he missed out on a couple of years. Now, if you were to ask me, who do you think is the greatest of all time? I'd say Joe Montana.
Yeah.
I'd go back to Joe. I thought the throws that I seen him make, even though that Jerry Rice was great, but the throws that I seen him make, the way that ball would turn in the air, starting pointed up when he threw it and end up pointing down right into the receiver's hands. I thought those were the best throws I'd ever seen.
See, there's a lot of people though that feel that Steve Young was better than him.
Ah, he's not he's not even in my top 20 conversation. Steve Young was a really good quarterback, but he's another guy that I thought he walked into a team that was built for Joe Montana's Super Bowls.
Right. He was very good though.
But like Aaron Rodgers, a different skill set because Steve Young could run.
How about John
He,
Elway?
John Elway is great. He's an awesome quarterback. Another, like a knucklehead, tough as
Uh-huh.
nails.
Tough.
But
Played the
Steve
game
Young
tough.
could run.
Yeah. And then what
Joe
about
Montana
Terry
wasn't
Bradshaw?
yeah. I didn't get to see too much of Bradshaw, just from what Dad
Just
says.
highlights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Just
never spent
highlights.
too much time watching Bradshaw highlights.
But he's got 4 rings.
Yeah, he's got 4 rings. Dad says he could have had more, so who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I really don't.
I really love Tom Brady right now because he's from U of M, and that's a big deal to me that he came from that school because
Well,
that's my favorite college football team.
And to a degree, he has always been an underdog. He came into Michigan, and I was watching Michigan football when he played because, he's the same age as me pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
So watching him play at Michigan, he was fantastic. And I remember he was in the Heisman conversation going into his senior year, and they benched him for Drew Henson. And Drew Henson was okay at best. And I'll never understand why they did that. Never. You'll never be able to justify that in my mind. I don't care what type I think they were looking at a dual sport athlete. I think that was when the business side of the NCAA was getting into the mix, where they thought they were going to have a two-sport superstar that was going to come in, light baseball on fire, light football on fire, and just grow the sport to be even bigger, and bring a ton of money and attention to the NCAA, and it didn't happen. He was a decent to middling quarterback, and Tom Brady was better than him at everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because Henson, he ended up backup for the Cowboys for several years. And that was it.
After being drafted by the Yankees, and he played professional baseball for a little while first, and then failed at that. And then he tried to come back and play in the NFL, and then failed at that. So, and that's not a knock at him because, he is a tremendous athlete to be able to play both at a level that gets you into the pros.
Oh, yeah.
But that really hurt Tom Brady because that's what knocked him all the way down because he barely played his senior year. That put him all the way back down to that 6th-round pick.
Huge
and the
mistake.
Patriots got him. Huge mistake, but it almost kept him out of the pros. Think of that.
Yeah, nobody almost drafted him.
Yeah, he almost wasn't drafted.
Yep.
Can you imagine if he had to waste 5 years in the CFL?
Well, kind of like, there's been guys that's happened to.
Yeah, Warren Moon.
For what reason they've been seen as not NFL size or speed or whatever, and they ended up wasting half their career playing Canadian Football League.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I am a Brady fan because of that. Because he did play at Michigan, because he did get a raw deal at Michigan. And it wasn't until recently that he was even that he's even participated in alumni functions with U of M. He's kind of shunned them ever since. And some people are like, oh, he needs to get over it. No, he doesn't. That nearly cost him everything he has now. That nearly cost him. And people say, well, it drove him to be better. Yeah, it did, but it almost kept him out of the league. That's just nuts.
Yeah, because he won us a national title, didn't he?
Yeah.
The last one that we have, I thought. Have we won once?
No, no. In the years that we had Jake Long and Chad Henning and I'm trying to remember the running back's name. He came in the league and No, it was after him. I can't think of his name right now, but he played with the Colts for a little while after. But it just that was one of Lloyd Carr's last good teams. Right before he retired too. And then they went on that roller coaster of Rich Rodriguez and who was the big fat guy that they said was a Michigan man. What was his name?
Yeah, I can't remember that. I can't remember.
I can't think of it now. But then Harbaugh came in and that was that.
Face.
Brady Hoke.
Yeah.
He looked kind of like Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
I can't stand Mike McCarthy.
No, I don't really understand because the Packers are such a big Upper Peninsula team. I don't understand. I don't understand what is going on with their decision making either. I mean, I know the Lions have made some questionable decisions, but I think the Packers have made some pretty bad ones here. If they're looking to win with Rodgers, because Rodgers has sustained a couple of big injuries the last 2 years.
Yeah, and he's getting old. This is the analogy I gave. So Ted Thompson, previous, he was the GM at Green Bay for a long time. He said that he didn't believe in spending lots of money in free agency, that they would draft their talent and have a revolving door of great drafted talent, and that's how they would win. Now, here's why I think that's funny. And I've said this on here before, but in the mid 90s, they drafted nobody. They got Brett Favre in free agency. They got Reggie White in free agency. They may have drafted Sterling Sharp. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
But Brett Favre and Reggie White are why they won a Super Bowl in 95. Okay?
Yep.
And then in 2008, they got Tony Siragusa. They got Charles Woodson.
Woodson.
And, those guys in free agency, and that helped them over the hump to go off and win a Super Bowl. Outside of doing that, they've never done it in the modern era.
No.
And so for your GM to then come out and say, we're not going to spend money in free agency, we're just going to draft our talent and compete. And they have. They've declined in talent ever since he said that, and ever since he took on that philosophy. The reality is it takes everything to win. Look at the Patriots. They pick up, not only do they draft, but they get anybody that with any talent that gets released, they pick them up instantly. Look at Josh Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. that guy, he's a number one wide receiver, and they got him for basically nothing.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't. I don't understand it either. Just because I'm never going to be able to. You can't say that they're wasting Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay because he already has a Super Bowl. He's got MVPs. He's been in the mix for Super Bowls many years, and he's a great player. And he has, he's got great individual awards, and then you have the big team victories as well. So you can't say that about it. However, when you look at him and you look at Tom Brady, don't you think a little bit like, why doesn't Aaron have 5 Super Bowl wins?
Yeah. Well, and it's Belichick is a huge reason why Tom Brady's got all those rings, but it's a team philosophy.
Yeah.
You're right. If you're not able to get the talent out of free agency coming up for the next year, you're going to get drummed out because somebody's going to get those guys.
Right. They'll get like Seahawks picking up Cliff Averill, picking up guys from other teams and competing. And the Patriots, they've perennially just patched together teams from free agency and whatever to compete, to put together a good enough roster to be the best in the league. The Steelers, they're the other team that's perennially, competing for a Super Bowl, even though I want to say they've only won 2, like that's no big deal, but
2 with the same quarterback, that's a huge deal.
Well, and Roethlisberger is another one that doesn't get talked about enough in those elite conversations. He is one of the best ever. He really is.
Well, what was that time you were laughing because they had just gotten scored on, and I can't remember if it was a AFC Championship or a Super Bowl, but he went over to the sideline and said, "Give me my hat," because he knew he had to go back in there and score another touchdown.
And he did. Not only do you have the fact that it's known that he's told the ball boy or whoever it was, "Get me my hat."
Yeah.
I mean, that's some John Wayne stuff right there.
That's wow.
Yeah,
that's what you gotta have. I think we've got it in Stafford, but I believe that Caldwell was on the right track when he was picking guys. I mean, getting T.J. Lang and Rick Wagner out of free agency, he was building on it.
Yeah, he was trying. He was
doing the right thing.
I mean, but Green Bay must have known something because TJ's been hurt.
Guys go.
Yeah. I think Green Bay knew something there, though, because TJ has been hurt the whole time he's been with Detroit. He hasn't played 6 games in a row.
No, not too much.
So I think they knew that. I think they knew that there was things coming up with him. I don't know. That's what I feel because it's happened since he got to Detroit. And they're playing the same game. They're doing the same damn things. And so to be going down constantly to injury like that since he's been in Detroit, it's like Ansa. Ansa's driving me nuts with the part-time play and the injuries and $17 million a year.
Because we need him. He should be in there every down.
I know.
He's that good. He's a game changer guy. Well, it's like the Chicago having Khalil Mack. He changes the game.
He does. He does, and he made some really nice plays today in part-time work.
Yep. And part-time work, so if only we could have him full-time every
Yeah,
freaking game.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. So I don't know. Like I said, I feel like too much. Even when they win, I'm talking down about them because it's important and it's great to get a win any weekend in the NFL because you see a lot of good teams get beat week in and week out by lesser teams. Um, and so when you can get a victory, you take it any way you can get it. And I know San Francisco and the Jets and Dallas don't have a second thought in their mind about beating Detroit when maybe Detroit was more talented than them. Nobody cares. They just
No.
take the win. So I'm glad they won. I don't know what's going to happen against Chicago. I think they're going to play better on Thanksgiving than they did the other weekend, and they're going to need to. Because as much as I've said that Trubisky is not that great a quarterback, he's really playing good football now, so maybe he is.
I think that he's a more athletic quarterback. It showed that we didn't have Slay in that game. I think a different game.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that
a
was,
different game.
well, and the energy levels. And that was the other thing I was talking about with the Golden Tate trade. You traded Golden
Yeah.
Tate to get a third round pick, so you didn't get nothing for him. But was that more
Oh, really?
valuable than losing the emotional center and the true leader of your football team? Because obviously that was him. Because they were playing with a completely different energy. They had a completely different look the last 2 weeks. I think they're recovering now, but it was noticeably different. They were playing very lethargic. Guys just weren't finishing plays. It just, you could tell they were a team that felt defeated. And to me, that speaks to Golden Tate's leadership, his voice in the locker room and on the sideline. And when that was gone and taken away mid-season, was that more valuable? Getting that third pick more valuable than finishing the season strong with one of the best wide receivers in football?
Yeah. And that's
I
what
don't
he
know.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's top 5 in every receiving metric.
Yep.
And his career did go up when he went to Detroit. Things got better for him statistically. So, other than the wins and losses.
Yeah. But
But
I think getting down on Detroit is just because it's been so long.
yeah,
And it's not like it's been that long since we've had a winning season. It's just been so long since you really felt like this is the one that's going all the way.
right. Not since 91.
Yeah.
91 had its feel of a team that could win a Super Bowl,
We didn't have a quarterback then.
right?
Not,
When
you
Scott
know,
Mitchell put up 5,000 yards and Herman Moore and Brett Perryman each had over 100 catches and
yeah,
Barry Sanders ran for 1,500 yards and they were the best offense in football. And they had Jerry Ball and they had some really big guys on their defense. You thought,
Tracy
man,
Scroggs.
they could do something.
Yeah,
And then they didn't. He got in the playoffs and I think he threw 3 picks.
I think he did. Yeah,
3 or
who
4.
was it? The Eagles?
It could have been Dallas. I don't know. It
Yeah,
wasn't good. I mean, yeah, that's just Detroit, or was. I don't know about this Detroit,
yeah.
but that Detroit wasn't very good.
I think if you get that kind of talent on both sides of the ball where it's even and equal, I think that Stafford could win us a Super Bowl so quick.
Oh,
It would
sure,
happen so fast.
sure. You just have to beat the team in front of you. You have to outplay them. You don't necessarily have to be more talented than them. You just have to outplay them. And that's happened to Detroit, where they've been beaten by teams that they're more
Outplay.
talented than, and they should beat them, but then they lose. And they've beaten teams that are more talented than them, and they probably should lose. So that's the NFL.
There's got to be some consistency. But I still, I mean, if you look over the past 6 years, the consistency is there at quarterback,
Yeah.
just nowhere else. I mean, you can't have a guy getting sacked 50 times a year.
No, you can't.
You can't. It's never going to happen for your team if that's how many times you're letting your quarterback. Because that's just getting sacked. That's not how many times he's getting hit. And then
Right.
to be able to start every game is freaking amazing.
It is. It is, especially considering that his career started with injuries.
Yep.
He had that separated
Shoulder.
shoulder.
Yep.
Usually that's a really bad thing. But he recovered nicely. Because I remember in his second year when he got hurt again, I was like, wow, this guy sucks. He's going to be injury prone and be out of here in another year. But no, he
Pretty tough dude.
he's turned out to be really tough and really good. So I was wrong about that, thankfully. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's about all I got. Talking Lions
That's all I got.
football.
Good, good week win. That's what we need to go into Thanksgiving. And
Before we
hopefully
go,
we get, usually we get a good showing.
yeah, I'm hoping for it because they're going to need it against Chicago. But
Yeah.
did you by chance see highlights from the UFC last weekend?
No.
So these two guys fought. One of them's called the Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie was fighting Yair Rodriguez, something like that. Anyways, the Korean Zombie is kicking his butt, outstriking him, winning the entire fight. I mean, winning. He was up. He won every single round pretty much in that fight. Final round, 2 seconds left. He throws a right hand, and Rodriguez ducks underneath it. Like he's ducked down facing the floor. He throws an elbow straight up in the air behind him and hits the Zombie in the chin and knocked him slick out with 2 seconds left and won. It was the most amazing thing. If you get a chance, look it up on YouTube. And for anybody listening to this, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in a fight. That's as crazy as Anthony Pettis wall walking in the octagon and kicking Ben Henderson in the face. He ran up along the wall, like this, takes one leap along the wall, and kicked him coming off the other side of it. It was crazy. But this was better because it finished the fight, and I mean knocked him out. It was ugly when he hit the floor.
Well,
You got to see it.
wasn't that the deal? Wasn't that the deal with the undefeated champion for the UFC, the wrestler dude?
What do you mean?
The Beast.
Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar, wasn't that the deal? He went up against a dude and it was just one punch. He caught him on the chin, knocked him out.
Knocked out Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, wasn't that the deal? Wasn't it when he lost his title? Wasn't it to some guy that got lucky? Wasn't it a Croatian guy?
No. The times he got beat were by some pretty elite guys, and they weren't one-punch deals, but he was running for his life when he got hit.
Well, I'll have to look it up. I'll have to check it out.
But yeah, check out that fight. That was really good. But yeah, man. My intent is to have you on every week from here on out. I'd like to have Kyle Bell join us when he can or when he's got time. The Skype deal I think could work really well for that, just because I can easily, now that it's working, and I'm not going to touch these settings, but now that it's working, I could add Tommy and Kyle to the Skype group real easy, and then we can talk from there. But I think it'd be pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate being on the show, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll get this up probably in the next hour, and we'll do it again next Sunday or Monday.
Okay, we'll next Sunday then.
All right, we'll catch you later, bro.
Looking forward to it.